Are ready to begin whenever you are.
All right, thank you. All right, today's November 4th, 2020. I'm calling the City Commission regular meeting to session. Ms. Riggs, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Present.
Mayor Dan Holliday is absent this evening, and Commission President Rachel Lau Smith.
Here. Everybody join me for a flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so first up on the agenda tonight, we have a couple of proclamations. The first is recognizing November as Shop Oregon City. I would like to read this proclamation because I think it's really important that we support our local businesses, especially in the time of COVID. Whereas Downtown Oregon City Association, the Oregon City Chamber of Commerce, and Buy Local Oregon City seeks to bring the local community together to support economic vitality and the quality of life in Oregon City, and wishes to celebrate the independence of the citizens of Oregon City and the entrepreneurial spirit represented by our core of local independent businesses. And whereas the individual decisions every community member makes today affect the future of Oregon City, and whereas the greatness of our community, state, and ultimately our nation is attributed to freedom of choice and competition, the basic elements of our free enterprise system. And whereas the small business owners of our community are the risk takers who have invested their knowledge, energy, and personal assets in a variety of independent business careers, and in doing so, they have created employment opportunities for others while reaping the rewards of their independence. And whereas the small business owners of our community work hard in the marketplace to provide quality goods and services, and this in turn evokes the confidence of the consumers who respond in a fashion which keeps the economy healthy and vital. And whereas Oregon City's independent business owners and employees enrich community members' shopping experiences with their knowledge and passion. Now, therefore, I, Rachel Lau Smith, Commission President of the City of Oregon City, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2020 as Shop Oregon City, and salute our community members and locally owned independent businesses who are integral to the unique flavor of Oregon City, and honor their efforts to make Oregon City the place we want to live, work, and shop. Also urging the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants in November and throughout the year. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand this 4th day of November 2020. And I believe we have on the line Miss Victoria Minning from the Chamber. Would she like to make a public comment?
I'm not sure if you heard this because we may or may not have been muted during this time, but Victoria, we just read the proclamation for the Shop Oregon City for the month of November. Is that something you would like to provide a comment on?
Please do.
Muted.
She's muted.
Yeah.
Were we muted the whole time?
Hey, Katie.
Yes.
John Lewis. I haven't been able to hear the meeting, and I've been messing with speakers and volume and everything else. So my guess is that if you had it muted, other people haven't been able to hear, and she might be messing with her mic just like I was.
Yeah, it looks like she just unmuted herself.
Yep.
No, I just want to thank the commission for supporting our businesses. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Victoria. So for those who could not hear what I was saying, if you were virtually, I just read the proclamation. I'm not going to read it again, but it's the proclamation of the month of November 2020 as Shop Oregon City. And the City Commission as a whole, I'm sure 100% supports our businesses in the community, and I hope that our community supports our small businesses in the month. So
Absolutely.
moving on to the second proclamation, this is about Extra Mile Day. Whereas, and I'm going to read this because you probably don't know what Extra Mile Day is. Whereas Oregon City, Oregon is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas Oregon City, Oregon is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas Oregon City, Oregon is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas Oregon City, Oregon acknowledges the mission of the Extra Mile America to create 550 Extra Mile cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2020. Now therefore, I, Rachel Lau Smith, Commission President of Oregon City, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2020 as Extra Mile Day and encourage Oregon City citizens to take time on this day, I would say, and also the rest of this year, to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but to also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make the organizations, families, community, country, our world a better place. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 4th day of November 2020.
I'm just gonna ask you, is this retroactive since Extra Mile Day was November the 1st?
It was a couple of days ago. That's why I said I think we should all try to go the extra mile.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Let's round out 2020 hopefully in a more
As an
positive.
extra mile.
As an extra mile.
There you go.
And try to be positive. All right. Item number 3C is the FEMA Community Rating System. Mr. Lewis?
What happened to 3A? We're not doing 3A?
We pulled
I did
3A off of the agenda.
Okay.
Originally, it was 3A, it was the proclamation for the falling officers. And that will be read at our next city commission meeting on November 18th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, to note, this is I'm looking at there was a revised
Yeah, I have
agenda.
3 or 4 different versions of the agenda, sorry.
Sorry. Okay, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Commissioner Lau Smith and the rest of the commission. Looks like Katie's pulling up the presentation right now. So good evening, I'm John Lewis, Public Works Director, and I'll be presenting this FEMA or FEMA Community Rating System 2020 Annual Report. Keep in mind that we do this annually, so this is informational only. No decisions are needed tonight. This presentation is an overview of our program, and if we've got the full copy of our annual report on the web, so folks can get to it that way, or call me or call Public Works. We can get it to folks if they're interested in it. But we'll be giving you some background on the purpose and describe the program and overview, and move on to the next slide. Thank you very much. So,
So John, can you explain who FEMA is real quick, and you only have to do it once?
yep, I'm getting there. That's this comment here. FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They sponsor the community rating system. So the acronyms here are FEMA, FEMA, and CRS, Community Rating System. So Oregon City's participated in the CRS system since 2005. Anyone who, and this is about flood insurance, so anyone who has, is in the floodplain and has flood insurance, that community rating system, they can get a discount through that based on the work that we've done to get the word out about flood insurance. So Oregon City is currently rated 8 out of 10, which allows up to a 10% discount on flood insurance for residences and businesses that are in the floodplain. And if you're outside the floodplain, you can still get flood insurance at a 5% discount. So we currently have 43 policies taking advantage of the discounts. And CRS requires an annual recertification to allow the city to maintain this rating. Next slide, please. So one requirement of the annual report that summarizes the city's current credited efforts shows how these achieve past goals and set future goals. So there was not a significant change for 2020. We had actually talked about that, but we've had in terms of trying to, improve our program. But we've had some other things go on this year that just kind of distracted from that. So we haven't really done much new. It's pretty similar to what we did in 2019. So we just continue ongoing maintenance of the city stormwater system. We uphold the municipal code and standards regarding floodplain and stormwater management. We do a fair amount to get information out to the community about flood information. We make it readily available through our GIS systems. We've got flyers and pamphlets. We do a pretty good job with the trail news on these articles. There's actually publishing requirements through this program to make sure we get it in things like our trail news so that folks know about the program. We also need to present to the city commission annually, and so this presentation is really kind of trying to cover those bases. So the city of Oregon City continues to participate in the Clackamas County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. This is another this element of that natural hazard mitigation plan. We're talking about flooding now. Other parts of that natural hazard mitigation plan include things like fire as well. So that's getting exercised in Clackamas County right now. But this program's about flooding. The city has not had resources to. One of the things we'd like to get done is a vulnerability assessment for flooding. We really haven't had that ability other than what we already know about our floodplain. Portions of Oregon City are within this special flood hazard area, mostly along, where you would think, along the rivers and streams in Oregon City. So Willamette River, Clackamas River, and Abernathy Creek. Really, we haven't had much flooding recently, so therefore, we don't see much damage to property or to our riparian habitats. So this reporting period is pretty inactive. Next slide, please. So the city continues to provide the following mitigation activities. We uphold the code, we implement master plans, we provide stormwater management. We provide regular inspections and maintenance. A lot of the things that the building department does helps ensure buildings are built at the appropriate elevation above the floodplain. So that continues to happen. We continue to implement public education around the potential for flooding in Oregon City through both the newsletter and our website. We continue to partner with Clackamas County on emergency notification systems as they pertain to flooding. And we've done several activities, whether it be exercises, participation with other emergency management groups, etc. So again, we're wanting to, try to improve our scores. It's a fair amount of work this program is and it's very important for a few folks in the city that are in the floodplain. The better rating we get, the better their discount is. But just keep in mind, we're limited staff. We're trying to do our best to maintain our existing rating. That continues to get harder and harder as the regulation gets kind of higher and higher. But we would still like to do the best job that we can for our citizens. So we're still focused on that, and we will keep you updated. And that's it. Sorry, Katie, I forgot to ask you to get to the next slide.
All right, are there any questions for Mr. Lewis? No, seeing none.
Report.
I noticed, I will make one comment, I noticed that we were rating at 8 out of 10, but where 1 is the best. So I feel like we're just kind of squeaking in there, and I think you answered my question was, is there a larger discount for insurance rates if we were, say, at a 5 instead of an 8, or a 3 instead of an 8?
Yeah, there's better discounts. They go up. The requirements get kind of exponentially more difficult. So
Okay.
yes, there are agencies that have better ratings than we do, but, you know, for Clackamas County, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, it does make a difference, and it's good that we are participating, and we do have a natural hazards mitigation plan. I was just curious about that, so. All right, I don't think we have any more questions. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. We will move on to citizen comments. I believe we have some, Ms. Riggs.
Yes, if we could please have Patty Webb come forward.
Hello, I'm Patty Webb from Kenema. And I would like to thank all the commissioners for preventing the early opening of Oregon City and a fireworks display in July of 2020. Pandemic cases have flourished following such public gatherings and would have at such a big group activity or early opening of businesses in Oregon City. Thankfully for us, that was prevented. This should reassure citizens of Oregon City that our city commission is protecting us and following state quarantine mandates for our safety. They do care about our welfare and safety. I've personally attended some of the rallies and protests that were held as examples said to have not followed safety guidelines. I saw distancing between people, all wearing masks and staying apart from each other. I saw no children too young to wear masks or at risk for contagion. I don't believe that would have been the case at a big fireworks display. Families could have become ill, and the outcome would have been much different. We can and did forego fireworks this year in the interest of saving lives. We did survive without it, literally. There are many ways to be heroes and protect your neighbors, save lives. Thank you for doing that. Thank you to Commissioners Rocky Lyles Smith, Frank O'Donnell, Denise McGriff, and Rocky Smith. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Dorothy Dahlstrid.
Hi, my name is Dorothy Dahlstrid. I live in Oregon City, Berkeley Hills neighborhood. I'm here to encourage the commission to, and thank you for probably reading the Oregon City Parks Foundation letter in support of the Upper Waterford Park. We have got hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars of the grant hours, and we plan to do more. So we encourage you, please, to lend a positive vote to that and include more. But I'm here actually as a personal citizen, as always, and champion of our Heritage Tree Program. And I want to thank the progress that's coming along in our city tree program. There's always more to be improvement, but that's always me stretching my wings out into more urban canopy. I would like to see and ask the question that there's a very, very small budget for the Heritage Tree Program. It's only $300 a year. Registration for the tree has gone up from $25 to like $100, if not more. And that's actually supplied by the city. So I'm kind of wondering if we could, if we don't use up our budget one year, please roll it over to the next year. We could have accumulated probably 5 years worth of $300 to really help this year's worth of nominations. I have several more to come up in our parks, but until we have really clear vision on where we're going on the Heritage Tree Program and how we're gonna embrace it, there's lots of hours in it. So we have wonderful parks to shine, really great stories and wonderful educational things to do and enhance our parks. And I can only say, please embrace these programs. Any way, shape, or form you have it, because we're digging, pulling, weeding, and planting. Like it or not, we're doing it, and it's coming out beautifully, and our neighbors are coming out, and we're all working together. So thank you all very much. But positive for our trees. Rah-rah. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dee Dee.
Thank you.
I would encourage you to send us a note in the spring when we're in our budget season. I saw Ms. Turre taking notes though. Do we have any additional public comment?
Yeah, we have Adam Marl.
City Commissioners, for the record, my name is Adam Marl, and I'm a resident of Oregon City. It's crazy to think that it was just a few months ago when I looked up to the dais for the first time, along with dozens of other citizens, to voice my concerns over the mayor's corrupt and unethical behavior. Now, as I look up to the dais, I don't just see commissioners, I see a group of dedicated public servants who I have had the pleasure of getting to know during these last few months. If he had bothered to show up tonight, I'd also say that I see Dan Holliday, a man who has so much pride and selfishness that he has refused to step down for the good of the community, even after being asked to resign by his 4 fellow commissioners, his 3 mayoral predecessors, the school superintendent, a majority of the Oregon City School Board, and thousands of OC residents. Commissioners, I ask that you move to refer the mayor's independent investigation to the DOJ for independent review. Leading the campaign to recall my mayor was not how I wanted to spend my summer vacation in the first half of my senior year at university. But in doing so, I have met so many amazing residents who share a deep commitment to our community. We are Republicans, Democrats, and independents. We are Oregon City natives and newcomers. We are small business owners and law enforcement officials. We are students and teachers, parents and children, longtime community advocates, and local government rookies. We are the ones, not the mayor, who define the character of our beloved city. By now, you all know that the mayor and I are members of the same political party, which has led to some interesting dynamics. For example, a few weeks after I became campaign manager for the Republican nominee for state treasurer, I was informed that the mayor had called the candidate demanding that I be fired since the mayor had endorsed him prior to my hiring. We just opted to delete his name from our website because we knew his endorsement would not help us anyway. On the other hand, many of my friends with the Clackamas County Republican Party have reached out privately to express their support and gratitude that this campaign is being led by a fellow Republican. Their guidance and encouragement has meant the world to me. Early on, there were times when I was scared that our volunteers wouldn't be able to gather enough signatures to qualify for the ballot, especially with the pandemic raging on throughout the summer and wildfire evacuations occurring the week of our deadline. But in the end, our grassroots campaign made history and beat the odds by submitting over 1,000 more signatures than the amount needed to qualify. The mayor has called us a mob, but with the broad community support that I've seen these last few months, it is clear that we are a movement. And on November 10th, this movement is going to make history again by recalling our corrupt and unethical mayor. To anybody watching, please remember to turn in your special election ballot in the appropriate envelope by November 10th in the drop box here at City Hall or county elections, as it is too late to mail it in safely. Let's bring this home, OC.
Chair, may I address Mr. Morrow before he steps down?
Yes, you
Briefly?
may. I have, considering it myself. Go ahead,
Well,
Commissioner O'Donnell.
What I want to say is, having just gone through an election myself as a candidate, I take the right to vote very seriously. It is a privilege and it should be exercised. But with that privilege comes you should be an informed voter. Don't vote unless you're informed. I'd rather you sit out. So please take a moment to get informed. This very issue that Mr. Morrow brings up, it was not a one issue. It was a multiple issues. Please take a moment to get educated on that. And I'll ask Mr. Morrow on the recall effort, where can citizens go to gain a further understanding of the issues behind your recall motion?
They can visit recalldanholiday.com or our Facebook page at OC Recall Dan Holiday.
Thank you, sir. The second part, chairs, Mr. Morrow has posed a question about, does the commission want to refer the investigative report to an outside agency? And I think we can have that discussion separate from Mr. Morrow's direct input.
Yeah, I would agree. I just would like some clarity, though. You made us that you were speaking very quickly, and I know we only give you 3 minutes, but I want to make sure I understood what you said. It sounded like you said that you were hired as a campaign manager for someone and that the mayor called that person and asked that you be fired.
Demanded.
Thank you for the clarity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Ms. Riggs?
I'm not sure at what point we discussed his second request to refer the investigative report to other agencies. I know when we first did it at an open meeting, I asked that it be so done. But I think Mr. Conkle wants a motion by 3 or more commissioners to do so. And I
We
don't know
want
if
to
it's
do
the
that
proper.
under
They just add it to
7D.
the agenda.
Do we want to do that to add it to 7D?
I
Under
think that'd
general
be less
business.
disruptive to the proceedings to do it that way,
I mean,
yes.
create a new agenda
Yes.
item.
Yeah.
Okay,
Why don't we get through citizen comments, and then when we get to adoption of the agenda, we can talk it through?
Yep.
that sounds like a good.
Sounds like a plan.
Ms. Riggs, next
There's no more citizen comments. The other folks are wanting to speak on specific items.
items. All right. Well, as always, that's always informative to hear our citizen comments. So do we have adoption of the agenda?
Would we like to add?
Yeah, I'd
Oh,
like to
sorry, I guess we do need to have it. Do we want to?
Yeah, I'd like to add,
Keep up, keep up.
let's add item
7D.
7D.
I better write it down because clearly I can't remember from 30 seconds ago.
Yeah. I would like
7D.
to, and I would also like to request to pull 8B.
From the consent agenda?
Yes.
Are there any other items to pull from the consent agenda?
No.
That's probably for you, Ms. Turway, I would assume, 8B?
Yep.
All right.
Do we need a motion to adopt the agenda, or we just say we're doing it?
We do a motion to adopt as amended, correct, or no?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
I think I counted 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right. We have modified our agenda on the fly and adopted it. Sorry. There are no public hearings. We're moving on to general business. Item 7A, which is regarding Waterboard Park. Mr. Conkle.
Evening, Commission President Lyle Smith and Commissioners. So thank you for tonight. I'll be presenting the first reading of ordinance, proposed ordinance number 20-1010, designating property adjacent to Waterboard Park as part of Waterboard Park and designating the areas as a park under the Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10. In the staff report, kind of laid out the process and the work that went into getting us to this consideration of this ordinance tonight. I think the main parts of this is that the ordinance includes the legal description of Tract 2, which is the upper yard and the armory site, and what was historically the armory site, which has reverted back to ownership of the city when that building was demolished by the state. It also includes the easement language, so there are existing utilities on that property that we want to clarify. If we need to get to those utilities, whether they're stormwater or warm water or power, that we're not going back to a vote of the people to address those utilities. And then we also put an easement along the west edge of the upper yard adjacent to the bluff, the cliff that drops down to what is Tract 1 below where our Public Works operation buildings are right now, in order to provide public access for future users that potentially have to get to that bluff. If there's maintenance requirements, if there's rock fall that's put in that needs to be maintained or needs to be put in, trying to clarify that that easement is there to the benefit of Tract 1 so that that work can happen without going to a vote of the people. And then the other component was this, that we attached to the ordinance, identifying the two outbuildings that have been part of the discussion, the Adair buildings, Camp Adair buildings, to be demolished. So that work has started as of Monday of this week, and the ordinance will take effect. So typically, we have a first reading, we have a second reading, and then the ordinance goes into effect 30 days later. So that would be the case, or once both buildings are demolished, whichever happens later. So if there's something that happens that stops the process of removing the buildings, the ordinance doesn't take effect until that has been cured. So I'll just go ahead and stop there. If anybody has any questions, Bill and I are happy to try to address them.
I've got no questions. It sounds well thought out,
Have you been
certainly
up there
my
today?
satisfaction. You went for a 60-foot easement along the bluffs, and I won't ask, it's such a minor thing, and apparently that's what we felt we needed, so be it.
What we did was we were tracking the existing asphalt road that comes up into there, realizing that this is potentially going to change down the road once we know exactly what we want to do. But, you know, in order to access there, you needed somewhere to drive, to get into.
Very good. Minor point. Someone like to do the honors?
Well, we have public testimony.
Oh, we
There's some
do?
people here that want to speak.
Any other comments from the commission? Questions?
So after that, yes, I do.
Sorry, I forgot one thing, was just a reminder that as part of the discussion, remember, one of the tax lots that was incorporated into what is gonna be the upper, Waterboard Park, lower Waterboard Park, was a house that was purchased with utility funds and then demolished. So that will be coming back with a recommendation for what that transfer from the general fund back to reimburse that utility. for
As a
that
budget
purchase would
item.
be.
Budget item.
Correct, it's a budgeting item, but just wanted to
Understood.
that
But
was
it's
part of the
it's
conversation as well.
included in the track, though,
It
that's
is.
being made.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Understood.
It's part of the bigger part.
I think we're ready for public comment. Ms. Riggs?
Yeah, we would call forward Cameron McCready, and he is speaking on behalf of the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. Oh, and himself, excuse me.
4.5 minutes.
This is going to be short.
6.5.
Now, assuming that you're all voting yes for this, this is just a thank you.
For the
Yes,
record, your
for the
name and city.
Name is Cameron McCready, and I live in Oregon City.
Thank you.
As chair of McLaughlin Neighborhood Association and as a private citizen, this is a significant moment for me. Since 2014, I've been involved in advocating for the preservation of the disputed area. This moment is significant for all of us. With the current national elections, the local recall effort, the historic election of Commissioner McGriff, and also the reelection of Commissioner O'Donnell, all under the shadow of a pandemic, I just want to remind all of you that this is an important issue, and I appreciate the attention that you've given it. I'm thankful for the neighborhood volunteers who have worked hard in this effort, and I'm proud of our community leaders who have contributed, and of you for your consideration and leadership. It is my hope that the expanded charter park will soon become the flagship park of Oregon City, much like Washington Park in Portland, or Manito Park or Manitou Park in Spokane, and Lithia Park in Ashland. Waterbury Park has the potential in attracting good people, good business, and good health. I look forward to the day our community begins the process of developing a Waterboard Park master plan, and maybe even consideration of changing its name. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Next, we have Jesse Buss, and he will be participating via phone. Jesse, there.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, Commission President and Commissioners. I'm Jesse Buss, resident of Oregon City. I'm also another authorized representative of the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. Commissioners, thank you. Tonight, you're poised to permanently resolve a disagreement that goes back over 100 years, and the solution you've chosen will permanently benefit citizens throughout Oregon City, including future generations. I've spoken to you before about the repeating cycle that this land has been caught in for the past 110 years. Is it a park? Is it not a park? Should the land be sold to private developers, or should it be recreational space? Every few decades, the city has vacillated between those opposite solutions, never making a commitment, always kicking the can down the road for another generation to deal with someday. You might call it the curse of Waterboard Park. Today, you're breaking the curse, stopping the cycle, and picking up the can instead of kicking it down the road. Once this ordinance is adopted, the city and the community can move forward with certainty, looking forward to a collaborative park planning effort instead of continued disagreements. This is an exciting prospect for citizens throughout Oregon City, and based on the hundreds of comments you've received over the past 5 years, this proposal has broad public support. And so, on behalf of myself and the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association, I'm proud to express support for the proposed ordinance designating this land as protected charter parkland. We appreciate the Commission's work and care to make this happen, as well as the sustained staff efforts over the years. Sincerely, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Ms. Riggs, do we have any other public comment?
Yes, next we have Mike Mitchell, and Mike is also on the phone. If you could please unmute yourself. Mike, are you there with us? We are unable to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Commission President, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Mike Mitchell, and I'm an Oregon City resident. And I'm the first person to speak tonight that's not representing the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. As a matter of fact, I live probably about as far away as you can from this park. I live in the Caulfield neighborhood, about as far away as you can with it and still be in the city limits. But I still think this is a good idea, the ordinance that you have before you. I had the opportunity over 2 years ago as a member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee to vote in favor of this action. I thought it was a good idea then, and I still think it's a good idea now. We just don't have that many opportunities in our city to obtain additional parkland, especially in a central location like this. I think that the nature of this area being flatter compared to the geological interest of Waterboard Park, we could do some things there, whether it be additional parking or picnic area or a much needed second dog park for our city. The addition of that land to the geological interest that already exists in Waterboard Park, I think will make, it's not going to be a neighborhood park, it's a citywide park, it's a regional park. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I encourage you to approve this first reading, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
And last but not least, we have Doug Neely.
At least concerns me a little bit. I don't think anybody was lesser than me, but anyway, I wanted to speak and talk about the history on the PRAC on this item. About 2 years ago, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee made a proactive recommendation to the City Commission to actually consider this. A year ago, there was a motion to take that off of our goals. That did not happen. It was still supported. And about 2 meetings ago, it was retracted from our goals. But I think the reason was that a lot of the members in the PRAC felt that it should have been a request from the City Commission for us to give advice. That was not the case. It was a proactive effort on our part. What I wanted to say was that PRAC members were not advised that this was on the agenda. I found out about it today. I called up Mr. Reed. He spoke to the chair and vice chair. They said they would have no comment. They actually voted to pull back on it. But I'm sure this is going to be on the agenda in next week's meeting. And I hope you will consider it for the second reading should some members of the PRAC come forward and give other reasons. But I've supported this all along, and so I'm pleased to see that you have it on. But I did want to advise you of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neely.
That is it. I just wanted to take the time at this moment and submit for the record. You received some public comment via email, and one was from the Parks Foundation, and the other one was from Jerry Herman.
Yes. Did receive them. They are on the record. We'll open it up for further discussion. Comments? Commissioner Smith?
I'm glad Doug, thank you for bringing that up. I did want to make sure we let the public know we very much understood the input from PrAC or the meeting that they had about this topic. So it's not that we're ignoring that. So we're definitely willing to hear that. But this is a project that has been worked on for a long, long time. And you don't really think about what projects might get emotional, but this it's hitting me tonight, how long we work on things. And the truth is, volunteers in this town, the extra mile thing tonight kind of brings that up. The only time that these things, any project, possibly never gets approached is when you give up. And you just can't give up. And that's whether you're a volunteer in the city, and you think you've gone to 100 meetings, and one more is just not possibly going to be enough. It might be. And it's one of the reasons we continue to put ourselves, well, I'll speak for myself, this is a lot of work to volunteer for the city and run for office. And it's not a fun job. And occasionally it takes a decade to get one thing accomplished or two things accomplished or things that you may never think that you're going to get accomplished. And then all of a sudden, 15 years goes by and you think, wow, I never thought that would happen. And it happens. So you have to just keep working at it. And I know it's easy to get frustrated. We all do. But some things, if it's supposed to happen and it's the right thing, eventually it happens. And this is going to happen tonight. So thank you.
I'm going to defer to Mr. O'Donnell because I'd like to speak last.
I don't really have a lot to say. I mean, this moment belongs to so many people who worked so long and hard. And, me, I live by a specific principle where it's always the right time to do the right thing. And this is the right thing. So let this moment be owned by others, and I'm prepared to cast my vote when you're ready.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell. The comment I would like to make is about, sorry, Commissioner McGriff, you were not here when we had our goal retreat, but I was a brand new commissioner, and in the 6 months prior to our goal retreat, I learned a lot about Waterboard Park and the history and the struggle and the legal battles about this site. And Commissioner Smith and Commissioner O'Donnell and myself and the mayor, we committed to resolve this issue and to try to reduce our legal battles and our fees and try to make amends, and let's compromise, let's work on this so we can move this forward finally once and for all for the city. And so I am super excited. I agree with our public comment. I think the park has a ton of potential, and I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Smith, about sticking to things. Because I do have a vision at some point to have a really nice dog park in our city that's fenced in where I can take my dog. But that's, at some point that may happen. But I'm really proud of this, and I do appreciate your comment, Mr. Neely. For staff, I do think that anytime there is a park item that is on our agenda, I hope that PrAC is notified. And so it's a little bit concerning to me that they felt like they were out of the loop. So I'll leave that comment at that. I think it's really important that they're engaged and at least notified, since they are volunteering and committing time for us and for the city. And Commissioner McGriff?
Thank you, Commissioner Lyle-Smith. I want to second what you said. I want the people on the current Parks Advisory Committee to understand that we do take their recommendations seriously, and that's why we're here, because we took the recommendation that was previously given by PrAC seriously to get this designated as a park. We didn't change from that. We have been, as Commissioner Smith said, we have been talking about this for a number of years. I know at the time I was chair of the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association, I came and testified many times on this particular issue. And when I became city commissioner last year, in one of our goal setting sessions, I talked about the fact that I also wanted to reduce our fees. I wanted to eliminate some of the court cases from our docket. And in addition, I wanted to see us move forward with Waterboard Park. So I kind of get the whole enchilada with all of this. And I really want to thank everybody for diligently working on this. I know soon as we can, we'd like to get back out there and do some more ivy pulls. I was walking through the park last week myself, and the places where we've done ivy pools have stayed pretty safe and they haven't come back, but there's other areas that's just running rampant. So I too feel exactly the way Commissioner Smith does, in the fact that this has been a long time coming. And if I may, I would like to move the first reading of ordinance number 20-1010, designating property adjacent to Waterboard Park as part of Waterboard Park and designating the area as a park under the Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Second.
Call the roll.
Sorry.
Getting ahead of you, we're excited.
No worries.
Mr. Geisman.
Ordinance number 20-1010, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City designating property adjacent to Waterboard Park as part of Waterboard Park and designating the area as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Vote.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye, and thank you, City Manager Conkle, for moving this forward. I know this wasn't one of the projects you had intended to do, but I nevertheless appreciate it, and I feel very strongly that the community appreciates this as well. Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
With pleasure for all the sentiments expressed by those present. Aye.
And Commission President Rachel L. Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Would you let the record show it was unanimous?
Yes.
All right. We're moving on to 7B. This is resolution number 20-34 regarding Father's Heart Street Ministries and a temporary warming shelter. Ms. Turway.
Thank you very much. The Father's Heart Street Ministry submitted a request to exempt planning to allow an overnight shelter during this winter through the time period of March 31st, 2021. They're currently allowed to operate a day shelter. This would expand that into the overnight facilities for up to 49 individuals. Though due to COVID restrictions, I would anticipate it being much less than 49. 49 was the same amount that they were allowed to do in years past. The City Commission did adopt zoning for shelters in January of this year. And though the applicant has not received a conditional use, which is required at that location in order to operate a shelter or expand a shelter in this way, they have initiated the development review process with the submittal of a pre-application conference, which is that first step. They've indicated a delay due to COVID, wildfires, and a mailing snafu as well. The proposed resolution before you is contingent on approval from the building department and the fire department for approval and compliance with our emergency shelter policy as well. This concludes my presentation, but we do have a few people on Zoom to answer any questions you have from the representative.
Thank you, Ms. Turway. I will step in and ask my question. The staff report mentions a fee that Father's Heart was paying around $1,000. And that was for the planning process, and they're continuing with that. They're not asking for anything.
The fee was for the pre-application conference, which is the initial step. There will be another fee after that for the conditional use application when it's ready for them to submit. So there'll be another fee, but yes, that fee is for a pre-app.
So when I was looking at the attachment from the Clackamas Fire District about the joint policy on temporary emergency shelter, I'm challenged with the time of the emergency order versus the limitation of the fire district's, it's a joint policy where it says that that their approval is only for 90 days within a 12-month time period and could potentially have a 30-day extension. So that's shorter than the 6 months or so that's being asked for this emergency declaration. Has that been a problem in the past? Am I missing something?
No, they have indicated, well, so First is that this is the longest request that we've got. They normally go till March 15th. And the weather around that time is questionable anyway. One thing that I didn't state previously is that this only allows a warming shelter when the temperature hits below 32 degrees, including wind chill factor. So depending on what the weather is next year, it may or may not be an issue. The fire and building departments have to do re-inspections if it goes really long, but no, it has not been an issue in the past.
So are you saying that after 90 days or a potential 30-day extension after that, that Father's Heart will have to go through and get an additional inspection regardless of our approval of this longer time frame?
That's what's happened in the past, is that fire and building will go back around just to make sure that everything is in compliance with the plan, so.
That makes sense. Sorry, I was just trying to understand the different timelines of what was going on here. Any
Yeah, good
other
question.
questions?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Hall-Smith. I would say that that's the same thing that I saw. I submitted a series of questions to Ms. Turway prior to the meeting because I had concerns when anybody lists something on an agenda item that says exemption from current standards. I get a little bit nervous. I am not in a habit of suggesting or recommending that we make exceptions to our standards because I believe that our standards are in place for a reason and that they apply to everyone, regardless of the circumstances. So I'm concerned about, again, exempting and having this, again, continue to set a precedent. So speaking from that standpoint, that's a concern. The time limits that are listed in the information is a concern. Again, I'm concerned that there was no outreach made to the adjacent neighbors. I did hear from two of them. One of them is out of town currently, and they have concerns about the timing of this versus the fact that if this ordinance went into effect in January, again, barring COVID, barring smoke, barring whatever, the concern was that the applicants knew this was coming down the road and they should have made every effort to get their application in so everything would be done in a smooth manner. I understand circumstances beyond our control cause these problems. And again, I'm relaying this from two adjacent neighbors. The other neighbor reached out to me. She lives on John Adams Street and sent a very long email to myself, several of the other commissioners, and Chief Band regarding what she considers to be ongoing and systemic disruption of her daily life because of the day shelter, anything that's been going on at Father's Heart, and she's basically very frustrated about it. And we all received that letter from that particular neighbor. So I guess, again, I have concerns regarding this. I'm not unsympathetic because we do need to have some of these things, but we also need to follow our procedure and policy, and I'm not sure that I can support anything longer than what is indicated in the information from the fire department and Oregon City. So I'm very willing to hear what the applicants have to say and how they plan to address these things, because I want to be fair and open about this, and this is a community need. I understand that, and I want to be fair, but I also understand that we have community members who have concerns, and we've got to look at both sides.
Commissioner Smith or O'Donnell, do you want to have any comments before we hear from our public comment?
I guess
Not at this time, I don't.
I guess I can simply say, in agreement with Commissioner McGriff, this seems to be a perennial discussion we have every year, and it's always done on an emergency basis. And I remember last year when we talked about is, can we do this and formalize it and get it done so we're not placed in this position? And to be absolutely blunt, I'm tired about hearing this COVID-19 as an excuse, or recent wildfires, or even that the Planning Commission changed address. This is something that could have been accomplished in a timely manner and not place us in this position again. And I also am sympathetic to the need, but please, we're a year down the road. We had this discussion a year ago. I don't intend to have it again. So, thank you.
We have public comment on this item.
We don't have anybody who specifically signed up, but we do have the applicant, a few folks from the Father's Heart on the line if you had specific questions for them.
Anybody have specific
How
questions?
do they intend, under the COVID directions, how do they intend to control residency?
We don't even know what the numbers are. That's
Yeah,
the
we don't even
problem.
know. I mean, we don't, they've got the standard number according to square footage, but how do they intend to control the residency? I mean, even though they were an exempt organization, they discontinued the offering of showers for a lot. I don't know if they are now or not. What are they doing to adapt their operations to the COVID situation, including overnight residency?
Hi, this is Robin Keating, Director at the Father's Heart.
Hi, Robin.
And I thank you for letting us speak this evening. So in regards to what we are doing currently, we are doing, in regards to COVID-19, we are taking precautions by doing much takeout and to-go type services. We had been doing showers. We cut our showers in half or less than half with spacing in between for COVID regulations to make sure that sanitizing was happening during the daytime. We currently are not doing showers. We are doing some upgrading in our shower, and we will hope to do that again soon. But right now, as far as precautions for the day center, we have been only letting minimal people come in at a time, fully masked. All volunteers are masked. All surfaces are being sanitized. All our restrooms sanitized after every use. And then just recently, we have put in our dining area, which has been real minimal in letting people in. We've put some partitions on our tables to make it even a higher standard of safety for those that do come in out of the rain to get a small lunch and a hot meal maybe there, time to sit down for a few minutes, and then they're leaving. They're not staying like they have in the past. As far as inspection, going for our night shelter, we do have a fire inspection and building inspection scheduled tomorrow at 1:30 to come in and make sure that we passed all those requirements. We hope to continue to serve our city. And yes, it will be limited. We're working with the county on what's allowed as far as spacing so that we can be safe. And we're just willing to comply to do whatever we can to meet this need in our city, in Oregon City.
Further question.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Are you making any adjustment on the maximum number of allowable temporary shelter occupants, which was previously based on one individual for every 35 square feet? Is that number still in effect, or will that change under the COVID requirements?
I have with me my night shelter manager, Jennifer Morris, and she could address those questions as well.
Good evening. This is Jennifer Morris. I'm also the Assistant Director at the Father's Heart. So that's going to change dramatically. We're also working with Clackamas County as far as doing some motel vouchers for those that are vulnerable and in desperate need. So that should also cut the need for the shelter services down by many. So we're trying to work together. We also have somebody from the county. They'll be doing a walkthrough, as well as with, I think they said they're going to bring somebody from public health to do a walkthrough and do an evaluation as far as the number of folks that we should be comfortable having within the building. And we'll do things where they will not be able to walk around the building unless to go to the bathroom. They'll have to wear a mask. They'll need to be on their mat at all times. So we intend to be have extreme precautions in place for those that will be at our shelter. Does that answer that?
Not really.
No, in the end, who determines the occupancy?
Yeah, I guess part of the question is, Jennifer, are you saying that the county requirements is sort of nebulous right now? We don't know exactly what the number is?
That's correct.
So
we're waiting for both of them to do their walkthroughs, which should happen tomorrow around 1:30.
Okay, so
we're hoping to.
Where did the number 49 come from? Was that from last year?
Yes, ma'am, that's what we've always been allowed to have. We're expecting that to be cut dramatically. We understand it'll be around, 20-ish. But the county is working closely with us to make sure that we're getting the most vulnerable, the elderly, those older folks that we have living in a car, actually into motels for the entire season, which we will also manage that. And I wanted to, can I address the time frame? The November 1st to April 15th is actually the Clackamas County time frame that they set up. We really haven't ever needed to go past March 31st. We've never seen the weather go into April.
Any other questions?
What sort of outreach have you done to the adjacent neighbors to let them know that you were going to be doing this again?
We have had a meeting recently with a neighbor across the street and another neighbor in the neighborhood, but we actually, unfortunately, haven't reached out to them this year around that. We haven't, we do have approval from those neighbors that we've talked to, but we have not heard those complaints that you bring up.
We'll note that not everybody received that email that you referenced earlier. So if you could forward that to Ms. Riggs and she can forward it to.
I believe I forwarded it. Well, Chief Band was on it. I believe City Manager Conkle was on it, but I forwarded it.
Commissioner Smith or O'Donnell, did you receive the email?
I didn't forward it to you guys. I forwarded it back to Chief Band.
Yes, and this is Robin Keating. I would love to see any concerns that any neighbors have. I've spoken to two in person and one on the phone, and we were able to nicely resolve any concerns. And I also had sent today our ways of operating at the Father's Heart. We have a good neighborhood policy. Because we have great respect for what's going on in the neighborhoods and we want to work with our neighbors. So we're just thrilled that people were reaching out to us and we were able to talk and work through things, and it seemed to resolve itself quite nicely.
Just to respond to your comment, I respect that you've been talking to some of the neighbors, but I can honestly tell you from the last time that we chatted that the concerns are the same that they've always been from the last 5 years. I'm just being, again, I'm the messenger. I'm telling you what I am hearing and what I am aware of. These are not new concerns. These are continuing concerns that have been ongoing since the operation began. What I'm concerned about is that maybe one neighbor says it's okay. Basically, Robin, they're frustrated and they're just tired. They're just kind of getting burnt out. So I will be happy to discuss that further with you, offline, to let you know that this is not anything new.
I understand that, and I appreciate what you're saying, and I, again, would just like to reiterate, I am open, my office door is open, whether it's phone or email. I am more than happy to meet with any neighbors with any concerns. I believe that we can address these things together and have a solution.
we would love, this is Jennifer again, we would love to meet with you as well, and talk about how to better address the neighborhood. As far as what we have is called a good neighbor policy, we are working with the police. We do hold people accountable, but if we're not getting reports of what's happening outside of our immediate eyesight, we can't address that with people. So we would like to have a further conversation with you about that.
Ms. Turway, how long do you think, do we have any idea how long the land use, conditional use process will take?
We are a couple of weeks out from holding that pre-application conference meeting, and then after that, it's up to the applicant to pull together the information needed for a staff report and a submittal, submit an application, and then we'll hold hearings before the planning commission. So it's months and months out.
Any other further discussion, or does someone want to make a motion? We can approve the resolution or instruct staff to come back with some modifications to the.
Question for clarification. Since this is not a public hearing, how would you recommend I go about having discussion? Just continue I'd like to talk to the three of you more about this particular issue. So we can't say, whoops, closing the public hearing and then, because it's not a public hearing. So I'm just trying to understand procedurally how I can go about having some further discussion with you about this. Is it just the regular process, Mr. Conkle?
Is it something that we would like to add as a work session item?
No.
Be more specific,
Yes,
what
okay,
you
let me
mean?
be specific. I'm not comfortable with the 49 because the county's requirements are, I don't know what they are. So I don't want to recommend that we approve 49 and let's say the county says you can only have 12. I'm not comfortable with putting a button on that.
Can we just approve it as to whichever is more restrictive?
That could be an option, just say it has based on that. The question I have is with that item is how do we understand what that number is? They say they're getting an inspection tomorrow. I don't know if that's happening tomorrow or next week. We passed something tonight. It's just a little too open-ended. Again, I have a concern about the time frame. I'm not feeling comfortable with expanding it beyond the 90-day in this thing, which would make it February, I guess, if I count 90 days correctly, with a 30-day possible extension by them. I'm not really comfortable with, I'm trying to get over my concern about the exemption. I'm just not comfortable with exemptions, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the land use part of my brain is kicking in here, and I'm trying not to go there because we set policy. I'm not setting the land use, but my brain is going to, okay, we get down to that road, and then we say, well, they've let us do this before, so we ought to do this. So anyway, I'm having problems with unintended consequences leading to a public hearing before the planning commission. That's where I'm going. Without being specific. I don't want to get more specific because that's getting into an area that we don't deal with. That's the planning commission's purview.
Well, I guess I'll say that we've done this for the last couple of years that I've been on the commission. We've always made an exception to our planning code requirements in order to allow them to do this. We've done it the last couple of winters. So
And I go with Commissioner O'Donnell. We said last year, this is it. I don't want to do this anymore.
I understand the frustration that we put code in place so that we didn't have to do this, and we made that, I know for a fact that I hammered on that point because I was like, I don't want to have to keep doing this every single time, and so we really worked hard to come up with a way
To make this work.
to make it
Yeah.
work. So it is kind of frustrating. At the same time, I am also very aware that we've also had, unusually cold temperatures. Not 2 weeks ago, it's projected for this weekend to also dip down really cold this weekend. And so I'm trying to also be compassionate. I would support something on a much shorter timeline. Give us some time to think about this, although if it's just, if we approve something that's just for 2 months and the land use process hasn't completed, then they're just gonna be back here, December, asking for an extension or,
I don't think the land use will be completed.
No, I'm.
yeah, and I don't believe the land use will be complete either, so.
I know it won't. So, I mean, I'm willing to
It
go
just
to
is what it is.
February with a, coming back in February to see if we need to extend it for another 30 days, subject to the fire department. I'm willing to go with what City Manager Conkle said about, the number is to be determined by Clackamas County's inspection and the fire department's inspection, the building department's inspection, and cannot exceed that number. I don't know what that number is, but it could be written that way.
Well, the resolution language does say that, they have to comply with City of Oregon City and Clackamas Fire District Number 1, the temporary emergency policy. They have to comply with COVID-19 regulations by the state Oregon Health Authority, which will likely limit the number of individuals on site. So I think we're kind of covered in the
The next whereas
resolution.
says it's been previously approved to house up to 49 individuals, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not comfortable with leaving that number in there. If you can suggest a slight revision, or maybe we just say whereas from 6 PM to 7 AM each day, the outside temperatures, whatever. I don't know. I don't want the 49 in there. I don't think that's appropriate. They're not gonna be able to get 49 people in there anyway, so.
This is Jennifer Morris again. Can I say something quickly?
It's up to the
Would you
chair.
guys be, I mean, if you give us a not to exceed amount, that would be fair as well. And then to speak to the temperatures in February, that is usually one of the coldest months. We were open 21 out of 28 days last year.
So, other comments from the commission?
I'm with Commissioner McGriff. I'm fine with not to exceed a number that we pick, say 25, or the lesser of 25, or the number as determined by the applicable agencies. I mean, we're cutting it in half, and I don't want to deprive people of a warm place to sleep, but I also want to protect the community against potential spread of COVID too. So I don't know what works for these folks and what can work for us.
So it looks like we need to modify section 4. Everybody want to look at the resolution. Maybe section 2.
But I will say, most of our angst tonight is because of the timing. First, the timing of not going through the land use process, which should have been done, and second, because introducing this at this late point in time. Now, that serves no other purpose than to note that timing is our issue tonight. Please, Chair.
So for section 2, sheltering up to 40, okay, so an exception from the Oregon City zoning code for the sheltering of up to 49 individuals, or
I would say
or
up
the
to the number of
maximum
individuals.
as approved
As
by
approved by
Clackamas
the-
County Health,
Yeah.
Health Department, whichever is less, something like that.
Or just,
Or put a number, or if we just want to put a number. I mean, I think we're still shooting in the dark a little bit because I don't know what the number is
Yeah,
going to be.
I don't want to pick a number.
I don't
'cause
want to
know
pick
what
a
it
number.
is.
I like what you said.
Mr. Kabizman.
I was going to just suggest eliminating the term up to 49. So it's, for the sheltering of individuals from 6 to 7 PM, and then adding a sentence at the end of section 2 that says, the number of individuals allowed shall not exceed the number of individuals allowed pursuant to the Oregon Health Authority under section 4. And that way, we don't have a number, it's just whatever the health authority says.
That works.
I think that's
That works.
Yeah, I think that works.
That works. All right, so I think we have agreement on modified language.
And I'm wanting to change section 1 to the end of February. Does February have 29 days this next year or 28? I don't know.
Should be 28,
Keep it
29 is an election year.
28 divisible by 4.
I don't
know.
have a strong opinion one way or another, other than based on the last couple of years we've done this, I think I'll be back in front of you with a request.
Well, you will be, because, I mean,
Will.
yeah.
And as long as we're okay with that, if I get that request, I'll bring it, or if you just want to say we're not going to do it at
I
this
think we
point, I
should
just
leave it
think.
at March.
Yeah, well, I'm going by what the Clackamas County said, it was 90 days. And if you go from 90 days from November the 5th, that is not March 31st.
Well, and that was the question that I asked Ms. Turway, and Ms. Turway said that Clackamas Fire and Building Inspections, they go back out and re-inspect and to check that box to make sure that they,
Then they can come back and ask us to check the box.
Sounds like we had agreement on the language change for number 2.
Yes.
As Mr. Kabizman said, I guess, what's the commission's pleasure as it relates to the date? I don't know if we want to call this a vote, or if we can just come to an agreement whether we want to change that.
We don't need a separate vote. It's if, you know, I can vote the way I'm going to vote, so. I've already expressed my concern about the date, and I'm trying to tie it to the information that we have in the packet, which says
Well, the date as
maximum
established,
of 90 days with any given 12-month period beginning on the first of the occupancy as approved by the local authority having jurisdiction, which is us, and them. A 30-day extension may be requested and reviewed by the authority, and a termination made depending on the weather, where their additional temporary shelter is needed and available.
I feel the date as established, and that establishes a safeguard that I think we should honor. So I'm fine with doing the 90 days and let them come back. I mean, there needs to be an incentive to do this properly before next year. So,
right? If it's 90 days, it would be January,
Well,
end of
I guess
January.
we should tie it, if we can we tie it to a commission date?
Be the second meeting in
I'm going
January.
December, January, February. That's why I went to February. So
Well, 90 days would be middle of.
20th?
December 3rd, January 6th, February 4th, roughly is 90 days.
February 3rd.
So we could do, you have a commission meeting on February 3rd. Not sure if it's exactly 90 days, I didn't count it up, I was just going 30 days on a month.
February
Sorry, November
2nd is 90 days?
What is?
February 2nd?
Oh, February 2nd is
So, yeah, end of January, or
what
the
I'm
second meeting in
suggesting is
January.
that we tie it to the second meeting in January, so we're not here at the last minute. That gives us a little bit of leeway in case the weather gets really wonky.
Okay, so we'll change section 1 to November 5th until 7 a.m. How about January 21st? That way it doesn't expire the morning of your meeting.
Right. And I
So
don't
we'll
want to
change it.
expire the morning of our meeting.
have to
So
change it.
we'll change March 31st, 2021 to January 21st, 2021 throughout the document.
That would be in section 1, section 2. I think that's it.
Yeah, section 1 and section 2.
Verifying for the record. Yeah.
And also move that we approve resolution 2034 as amended, declaring an emergency and exempting temporary warming shelter at Father's Heart Street Ministry from planning code requirements from November 5th, 2000. It's supposed to be November 5th, 2020, because it says 2019 on mine, so.
Yeah, the
okay.
title. Sorry about that.
20 until January 21st, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Riggs?
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
aye.
and Commission President Rachel Lyle Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Right, item 7C is expanding the existing tourism infrastructure support initiative to include a debt relief initiative option. Mr. Conkle.
Thank you, Commission Presidents Smith and Commissioners. So tonight we'll be proposing the expansion to the existing tourism infrastructure initiative to include an additional option. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Graham to provide the details of the proposed changes to the program.
Good evening, Madam President. Good evening, members of the Commission and City Manager. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm James Graham, Economic Development Manager of Oregon City. On September the 19th, this commission approved the establishment of a program called Reimagine Opportunity Fund. This program is basically a forgivable loan to help tourism-facing businesses and restaurants and those types of entities to reimagine their business in the face of COVID, in the face of fire, in the face of extreme weather conditions, just challenges. And so to help because a lot of business people have ideas, but many times they don't have the money to execute their ideas. So that was the reasoning behind establishing the Reimagine Opportunity Fund to help business owners reimagine their business. Now, one could get a forgivable loan anywhere between $5,000 to $25,000 on average, but certain projects could get as high as $60,000 in a forgivable loan. Now, in that, lots of individuals have been through challenges this year. The response to this program has not been as active or as involved as we would like, or as demanded as we would like. So we understand that winter is coming, and we're concerned that a lot of the restaurants and other businesses, as they close their doors and try to invite people inside, individuals and customers and patrons will not be comfortable about coming and going inside of those establishments. Very concerned about the winter. And so therefore, we are recommending that to help the business community, we want to give people a choice. Maintain the Reimagine Opportunity Fund, but also add a debt relief initiative to it. We're recommending that that's an option, and individuals can get up to $4,000 in grant money to pay 2 bills. Could be a November rent obligation and a December rent bill. It could be a number of other things that we have listed here. Many of the guidelines that you see in the staff report and the program information, many of them are the same types of guidelines that we had in the previous debt relief program. So therefore, it's not really very different, except for the amount. It's $4,000 this time instead of $3,000. It would be still a first-come, first-served basis, but of course, the applicant would have to submit a correct and complete application. So therefore, in the interest, and also we'll be using the same pot of money. We're not adding more money. It's basically the same pot of money. So therefore, you have the option of Reimagine Opportunity Fund or the Debt Relief Initiative. We've already had 2 webinars to discuss with interested parties the elements of this program. But and we have another one scheduled on November the 10th, sponsored by DOCA and the Chamber at 10 o'clock and at 9 o'clock a.m. It's a webinar, 9 o'clock, and DOCA and the Chamber are asking people to register ahead of time so that they could have at least an idea who would be at the meeting. So we're doing a lot of outreach, but we feel that that the business community, in the interest of just basic survival, need another option. And so therefore, in the interest of Shop Oregon City Day, we're recommending that a debt relief program be included as an alternative funding option for eligible applicants under the existing Tourism Infrastructure Support Initiative. Any questions?
Commissioner McGriff?
Yes, Mr. Graham, I read your very thorough report. The question that I have is, unlike phase 1 of our program and phase 2 of our program and now phase 3 of the program, if a person applies for the debt relief, what is the maximum amount that they could possibly receive? And then obviously I've been asked the question again, well, if I got one before, can I get another one? My answer has been, I don't believe so, but I need to confirm that with you. And do you have any concern that all the money will be used quickly for the debt relief as opposed to reimagining?
Those 3 questions, I'll answer them one at a time. In terms of the eligibility, if they received money before under other programs, would they be eligible for this one? Is that the right?
We had the first debt relief program.
Yes. So the answer to that question is, it doesn't matter. Whether you receive money from the other programs, we're trying to make this as flexible as possible. So that does not matter. You still are eligible for either the Reimagined Opportunity Fund or this one. In terms of, we're talking about up to $4,000 for the debt relief program. So that's with two, and so therefore someone could pay at least two bills. The third question I think you asked was in regard to, what was the third one?
The third question was, are you concerned that the 275,000 is going to get used up very quickly by just the debt relief and not anybody that's potentially wanting to reimagine?
Well, when I say that I'm not concerned, I'm a firm believer in the marketplace and allowing the marketplace to determine its greatest need, and making sure that the government doesn't choose winners and losers, don't get involved in choosing winners and losers too much, but to allow the marketplace to determine its needs. So therefore, we want to offer an option.
Okay, Commissioner Smith?
I'm struggling with it because I'm thinking, I don't remember a time we came up with a number of grant funds and people said, oh, it's too much. We gotta shrink it. I mean, I was thinking, gosh, if Metro Enhancement worked this way or something, we'd say, we'll give, $60,000 and everyone comes with $120,000 projects. I just don't know how we're not getting projects. So I guess why are we not getting a response to the Reimagine opportunity grants that we thought? What is holding people back from going after that?
Well, my understanding is that it's difficult, it's a challenge for many to sort of basically reimagine their own business. And on top of that, they're faced with all the other challenges, not only in running the business, but just in personal life. And so therefore, by offering this option, it's an easier, much more direct way of helping them. Because the Reimagine program does require you to really think about your business and to really sit down and sort of ponder what you would do in order to keep going in the event there was a crisis. And so therefore, it demands a lot of thought. And I think that people have been through so much, is that they needed another option.
Can I add on to that as your representative on the DOCA board? And this is what I have heard from, it's only been a couple of businesses, but I totally understand what Mr. Graham is saying. What I have been told by a couple of business owners is that, as Mr. Graham has so eloquently stated, is that they are fighting for their lives right now. They are looking at their business on an almost literally hour by hour basis to stay open, to stay, relevant, keep their employees paid if they have any, or if it's just them, the owners themselves, they're running themselves ragged trying to keep their business going. And I think it is a combination of everything. It's COVID, it's the weather turning. It's almost in a lot of ways, it's overload and it's too much. It's just like everything is just happening, and to try to get your brain around, plus you've got people who have children, they've got children home, they're trying to do homeschooling, they're trying to run their business, they're trying to keep open. It's just a combination of a lot of things where at the end of the day, there's that much left, and they're trying to also take care of themselves and not, feel fatigued or get sick or get run down. So it's kind of a culmination of everything, and nobody has told me that this is a bad idea. They said this is a fantastic idea. It's, it's the timing that sucks in terms of, it's the thing you and I've talked about over the years where museums apply for grants to do a project, but they need the money to keep the lights on.
Right.
This is a keep the lights on sort of situation, and it's hard to get out of that. And I totally sympathize with these people. It's just, It's not that the Reimagine grant is not a fantastic idea.
I mean, I was struggling with it, and I really didn't need that. I appreciate it, but I own a small business downtown. I've lost, upwards of $50,000 this summer on my business. Would I go to, and I'm dealing with working and all of that stuff, and so I get that. But I also know that I would put the time in if, it was a week or whatever to, or even a month to put the time in, which I don't have employees, so that's part of it. As a small business, I would put that extra time in to get a grant to try to go for something larger. So yeah, I see both parts of it. Are we gonna try to help businesses just survive through the winter? So I guess I'm open to the flexibility. I just, the biggest fear here is that we help a little at a time and they still don't make it, and maybe it's, what is the best way to really, hone in on what it is that these businesses need to survive and.
Make all of this go away.
Right.
I mean, I'm being slightly facetious, but that's about it.
So the question, I guess the other thing is the money that we've allotted for this is usable in any of those scenarios. We're not earmarked to have to do it a certain way, right? I mean, we have flexibility to give people these options and.
That's correct.
This is CARES funding
Right.
coming to us, so we have that flexibility.
In terms of, so I went back and kind of refreshed my brain on the last meeting. And the conversation that we had was, like the webinar, and is that something that's a required thing that we're expecting them to try to go through that before applying? Because that's kind of what it was implied with just the first part of this, but now that we're kind of opening this other thing, I wouldn't necessarily think they would have to do the webinar to apply for the debt relief part of it.
Well, they weren't required to attend the webinar even for the Reimagine Opportunity Fund.
Okay, because that was one of the questions asked by Commissioner McGriff at our last meeting, and that was implied that it was, man, that we were gonna ask them to go through that.
Businesses assumed that if they missed the seminar, they couldn't apply, I can tell you that.
Yeah, and that was not the intention. We wanted to make ourselves available to answer any questions under different types of forums, whether they were webinars, and also in the previous packet, we also said you're welcome to call us for one-on-one consultation. So that was right in the packet itself. So people had the option to call us and talk about, give us some, sort of bounce their ideas off of us. And we would be able to help them with the eligibility issues. So we gave individuals 2 months, as you know, to make the application, because the application period opened October 1st. And now it closes on November 30th. So,
I guess I wish there was a way to do. I mean, part of what I struggle with here is, there's going to be businesses that ask for their $4,000 and they're doing perfectly fine and they're not going to really need it. And there's another business that's going to maybe just rely on that $4,000 to just get through the winter. And how do you kind of measure the need of a business to survive, rather than just writing checks to anyone who asks for it?
one thing I'd like to say is that I think we have to be careful in trying to control too much.
No, I get that, but I also don't want to see businesses close because we only allowed them to ask for $3,000 and we give them $3,000 and they still close at the end of the winter, and yet we give other money to a business that doesn't need it and they're going to be perfectly fine no matter what. I really struggle with that. I mean, if we really want to hone in on the business that we've lost clearly several businesses in just the last few weeks and days. I want to make sure that just because we offer this big, fund of money and it's not being asked for, that we just think that, well, we just can keep writing these checks. I want to make sure that it's really being used and is beneficial. And I know that's not easy.
Well, the last initiative, Madam President. The last initiative was well used, the last debt relief program. All of our debt relief have been well used, and many of the businesses that have used them are still here. And of course, you will always lose some businesses no matter what. It's capitalism. That's what it is. It's the nature of the beast. So I think that the best we can do is do our part in helping people survive. And it's up to them to make it work.
O'Donnell?
Well, as Mr. Graham can attest, he and I have had many spirited conversations about this. I'm going to ask a couple questions, and I'm going to launch into the very discussions you and I have had. Can you do we have the power to extend the November 30th expiration date?
To answer your question, under the federal guidelines, we have to spend, whatever we pay for, the business has to get whatever they're buying done.
Done, or the orders placed to do it?
No, done. It has to be done by December 30th. If they're using the money, say, to buy a parklet, that parklet has to be built before December 30th. We can pay for it in January or that type of thing, but it has to be finished in December.
So to reiterate some of the conversations James and I have had respectfully and enthusiastically on both our parts, I like the first program, and I still have it in front of me, and I look at it, and it said, eligible entities must demonstrate the ability to implement new and innovative programs, business strategies, or initiatives to sustain their operations, et cetera. And these entities, these business people have to implement plans which make their operations more agile, adaptive, efficient, and effective over the keywords long-term. And where I'm struggling, this program has been out there for about 6 weeks when it was introduced. It was introduced before the start date. And yet, we have a grand total of what? Are we up to, do we have one solid applicant and 2 maybes?
We have 1 application and 3 in the pipeline.
And my struggle is, and I'll use the same words I used with James, is the difference between giving a man a fish and have him survive the day and teaching him to fish and have him to survive long-term. And I understand what Commissioner McGriff is saying, but I also look at my dedication of time, and I'm going, I could secure potentially $60,000, which may be more than I net, maybe more than my take home over the course of a year. How much time would I dedicate to ensure that I get in that program? What is the best use of my time? Do I shut my business down for a day or 2 days or a week? Is it worth doing? And I don't understand. I feel like collectively, we, and I'll just say we, and I'll say the city, I'll say DOCA, why are we not out there saying, what can we do? If you cannot imagine your own business, what can we do to educate you? What should we have done over this preceding 6 weeks, or could we now do going forward to say, what would help you? Would a website help you? Would making your website interactive help you? Can we get that done? Would making a modification to your business model help you? Yet, I feel like we've thrown the program out there. I feel we could have done better. I feel that DOCA could have done better. And I feel we should have been having these seminars and saying, come on, people, think about it. Let's do a walk through your business. And instead, we floated the program out there. And I mean, I dedicated time, even my own candidate forum, to say, please get out there and do it. I mean, and I know it's been said, we can take them to water, but we can't make them drink. But there's a short-term, I don't think $4,000 is going to keep a business afloat an appreciable amount of time. And I struggle with that. And much as my heart goes out to these folks, it's like there has to be a better long-term solution. And then I worry about, do we erode that $275,000, which now you tell me can be used in an either-or program? Should I divide it up, say this amount is available for the 4,000? In that interim, There won't be another go-around. You need to make some effort, and then we do this educational effort. And I've had strong words with DOCA, and they know it. It's like, get out there, educate. You're supposed to be encouraging your businesses in how to survive in the worst of times.
That's why they're putting on the webinar.
And guess what? You know why? Because I got on them and said, you need to do this.
We had already.
2 weeks ago.
We had already directed the board had already directed the
When did that
director to
happen?
do this. This was last month. We said this came out.
And when I talked to Liz weeks ago, I said, you need to do this. And it's like, well, we'll set a date. Well, how soon can you do it?
She had to work with the chamber.
she didn't have
She's
it.
been going door to door, talking to the businesses about applying for this program.
Well, then.
We told her to get out there. She's been out there.
And I'm
Yeah.
just saying, we need to help those who do not have their own vision on what do I do to survive?
She's told them to call James, again, reiterate for the record that please call for consultation. She has told them this. She has been out beating the street because as the board, we directed her to do that.
So, any business can survive when times are good, despite your managerial
Yes, exactly.
lack of effort. I want them to survive in these toughest of times, because when times get good, they'll be premier businesses. So I don't want to take this away from them. The source of funds is available to us to do what we will. We have the power to make this change, but I don't want to deplete the Reimagine Fund to give them a long-term solution, only to just disperse all the monies to a short-term solution. Because honestly, getting them, it's now November 3rd. If $4,000 gets them 2 months, it doesn't get them into a survival position as considering the weather.
I think that the interesting thing about it all, though, is that every business is different. And of course, we can't run someone else's business. So when they have this kind of resource to them that they did not expect, they very well may have other options to keep themselves open until at least March, because then hopefully the weather will improve somewhat. But we can't, everyone runs their business differently. And everyone has different skills in doing that. So this is simply an initiative to give them a fighting chance to do what they do best, and that is to run their own business.
And I'm not going to be argumentative about it. They've had 6 weeks to do something, to get something going. And $4,000 isn't going, I don't believe $4,000 will get a business enterprise through 4 months. Now, will any amount help? Certainly. I won't get in the way of this change. I'd like to see some amount of it dedicated to the Reimagine concept, which I think is the long-term solution, because this is just throwing somebody a life preserver and they're still going to be in the water months from now. What can we do? What can we do to educate you? I don't want to run their business, but they have to be, if they're not innovative enough to come up with their own solutions, then we almost need to be their advisors and say, have you thought about a website? Have you thought about taking your existing website and making it interactive where you can order online? I look at what the OC Brewery did with their automated ordering. What a good move. Have you thought about that? So I struggle with just handing out money that I think, will the businesses still be there in 3 months? I don't know. It's money to be used as we
Do you want to
see.
suggest an amount?
I'm just throwing out for discussion. I'd like to keep some amount in reserve to let somebody do some innovative. I'd hate to see the whole amount be depleted and just.
I don't disagree with you. I just don't know what that number is. I know
Oh, I
Mr.
don't
Graham
either.
would like to have the most flexibility, but I sense that you are uncomfortable with just saying, because that's what I asked the question, are you concerned with all of the money getting used up for debt relief? And then there's nothing left for somebody that's
And I am.
got that big idea.
So, Mr. Graham, how much, we had 200,000 the first time around, right? And it went like hotcakes.
Exactly, it went pretty quick.
It went really fast.
But we would just, keep in mind, that was a different point in time.
It was a different point in time, and I'm getting to that because this is gonna be my little bit of pushback to Commissioner O'Donnell's statement. My issue all along, I think with this Reimagine Fund, I've thought it when we passed it, and I still feel like it. I think the timing's wrong. I approved it because I want to support businesses, and if it gave them a chance to get some money and a chunk of money that's more than just $4,000 or $3,000, then I support it. But in general, I was kind of hesitant and wasn't sure that people were actually gonna buy off on it for two reasons. One, for the reasons that Commissioner McGriff has said earlier, that some of these businesses are doing everything they can, killing themselves to keep their business open, and they don't have the bandwidth between educating their kids, homeschooling, trying to handle all that, keep their business going. There's no bandwidth for people to do this imaginative thinking to come up with some out-of-the-box thing. They're trying to survive. The other issue that I have is this, is the timeline of this. If we had rolled out this project back in April, I think you would have a lot of businesses saying, I need to redo my website, I need to order different carryout containers, I need to order different stuff. But by October, they've already checked those boxes. If they haven't figured that out by now, their business is probably closed. But most of them have figured out websites, QR codes for menus. They've come up with they've already put measures in place to survive to get to this point. And that's just my only pushback.
I don't know if that's true.
Excuse me?
I don't know if what you said is true. Have those businesses actually made those improvements? Or have they done business as usual?
Yeah, I know, because I'm going out to
Some
eat
have.
all the time, so.
I think that's a generalized statement. I
Yeah.
don't think if we looked into it, you could support it. I don't know, again, I want to help businesses, but you cannot do the same thing you've always done and expect a different result. I mean,
That's true. I just know that there's a lot of businesses that have changed
And they have.
their way.
They deserve
They've started selling stuff online. If they had a retail business that had a product or a good that they could sell. You know, if it was restaurants, they've changed their menus, they've changed their, there've been quite a number of
Agreed.
changes, and I just feel like the timing is probably a little off for a couple of reasons.
Well, keep in mind that the money that we're talking about now was not available back then.
Right.
I mean, and it's not our money.
It's federal, this is federal money.
Federal money,
Yeah.
so therefore, this is really a creature of when the money was available to us.
And
Yeah.
I think the other thing to, not going to try to do a crystal ball of what's going to happen between now and December 30th, right? This could get extended. There's already discussion about another relief package, right, since now that the election's over. I mean, I have a feeling we're going to be having this same discussion again in near term potentially, for additional funding or an extension of funding, or I think it's going to be another tranche. I understand the concerns, and it's complicated. There is not one formula that says pick A, B, and C and you're good to go, right? Everything is so unique here. I just worry about with where we're at in the calendar and with the hard stop of December 30th. I don't want the money just to be left in the city, right? So I think I'm hearing support for something with a frustration of why hasn't this been better, this amazing opportunity. But, maybe that's something that we could talk about with a little more head time, but, we're out of ideas on how to get the money out the door at this point.
So the project, if they do something with the Reimagine Fund, the project has to be completed on the ground by end of December.
Correct.
Whereas the debt relief package, we're giving them 2 instead of 1. That's a difference from the last time. You tell us 2 creditors, whether it's your rent that you need paid for the next 2 months, something like that, up to $4,000. We've upped the amount and we've made it something that we can help them immediately. And we know it can go out the door before the end of December. I'm happy to do the split thing to try to support the Reimagine Fund. And maybe it's one of those where we agree on a split and the application process comes open. We see how many applications and how big the need is. It could be that we say we have a waiting list and you bring it back to us and we have an emergency session or something to change the amounts or whatever at the end of November that says we have a waiting list of 20 businesses that we couldn't get to them, but we've hit our threshold for the, what do we want to do? That may be an option.
Well,
That's an option by me.
One state, could you my request of the commission is to let the staff run the program. We're closest to it. You're the commission. And to get that detailed is challenging for any commission. So let the staff run the program and we'll make a report back as we progress, but we'll keep our eye on the money.
But to that, I would say what Commissioner Lyle Smith said, if we divide up the pot and we revisit it, because nobody, we should distribute that money regardless. It's ours to distribute. Don't let it go back.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I hate to pick a number, allocate some amount for this short-term solution, which maybe will give those same folks the opportunity to envision and implement a longer-term solution. And if we don't get that in end of November or whatever, then we put the residual money back into the, yeah. I know you feel that's management of the program by the commission, but I also feel it's a policy matter to incentivize people to, and to give them breathing room to maybe take the moment to earn more money per hour than they can possibly earn in their business operations. I'll go with whatever the will of the commission is. I won't be a naysayer, but those are my thoughts.
Go with your suggestion? Yeah, some type of a split and then come back, because I'm always willing to meet if we need to meet and make some changes, but I don't want to micromanage, but I hear what you're all saying, and that's what you seem to be comfortable with, so
Yeah, that's fine. I would throw out 175 for the immediate debt relief, hold out 100K for the reimagine, see if we can get a couple $25,000, $30,000 project
50
ideas.
or 250,000s, I don't know.
Or 250,000s, whatever, hold outside 100,000 and then see, you know, where we land.
How about if by December 1st, if we don't have any takers on that money, we cut it loose for debt
Yep.
relief?
That's right. That's
Yeah,
the
that's
program.
fine.
Yeah, that's the idea behind it.
December 31st, it has to be.
December 1st.
Oh, December 1st.
Yeah, because you can write checks in the month of December for creditors.
Figure out a way to manage if there's a queue or, you know, we ran out of money and here's the people who'd be next in line. Or
Build a queue. I mean, your number in the applications when they come in the door, they're first come, first serve anyway, so.
But, you know, if that's acceptable, you know, we'll just run with it.
Sounds fine to me.
I'm just trying
Works
to
for me.
I'm just trying to figure out too, like I said, I know that Ms. Hannum's been out beating the streets. We don't necessarily have the manpower to go beat the streets as well. Some people are going to respond to her, some people are going to respond to Mr. Graham, some people are not going to respond at all. So I don't know where where the touch point is. I mean, we can knock on the door and say, hey, we have this money, can you apply? I mean,
Well, we know, the first round was pretty successful. I mean,
yeah, the word got out and people were like,
we'll use, I would imagine we're proposing to use a very similar method.
okay,
Okay, I think you have direction. Sounds good. All right, let's move on. Thank you, Mr. Graham. To our newly created item 7D, which we added to our agenda, and this was regarding the investigation discussion of whether or not we wanted to send the investigation report of the mayor that we released to the public, but the request to send it to DOJ.
Well, and then I might as well speak, because on the night we initiated the censure and we initiated the request for an investigation, I remember the record will show that I felt we should make that report available and submit it to outside agencies for their review and possible further action. And in the absence of direction by 3 or more of this commission, that will not happen. We now have a request from a citizen asking for that. I think it's a valid request. I've got no issues with whether it be, I believe at the time we talked about, I believe the authorities were Attorney General and, is there a state ethics board or what is it?
Yeah, there is a state.
Yeah, refer to them for review and possible action.
Mr. Kabaisman, for the record, said Oregon
Ethics
Government
Commission.
Ethics Commission. We can't hear you, sorry.
Yeah, the mask is a little masking.
Working Government Ethics Commission.
I'm just like full of puns tonight. This is really bad.
What's the name of it?
Must be the candy. His mic is not even working?
OGEC, the Oregon Government Ethics
There
Commission.
you go, we can hear you now. Thank you, Ms. Riggs. And hurry back to your seat, Ms. Riggs, because I have a question for you. If I can interrupt.
Please do,
Mr.
yeah.
So this is regarding the recall election, because I don't want us to spend time on something that may be a moot point. So I'm trying to find out, when I read the key dates on the recall election, if I read the website, it gives November 30th as the date of the official
Certification.
certification of whatever the
Count
results.
is.
Yes.
Say up to.
Yeah, so it's up to. So I guess my question is, are we expecting a certification before then, or are we expecting, or it's this counter, we're gonna send from the county by the 30th?
Yeah, there is a deadline that they have to get it to us by the 30th if they were to get done with the counting early and they had a clear definition of that they've counted and recounted and they believe that they've reached the actual number, they could provide us with that number early. But there is an actual legal deadline that they have to get it to us by the 30th.
So they could conceivably wait till the 30th.
They could, yes.
Oh, they certainly could.
I,
Probably unlikely,
Right.
but, so sometime between the 10th and the 30th, the county will certify the results of the election.
Yes.
Of the recall election.
Yes.
prior to that, they need to certify the general that just happened, correct?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what
they-
you just said.
He asked if they had to certify the general election prior to the recall election, and they don't necessarily have to because the deadline for the recall election is a lot quicker and shorter. So the legal deadline that they have to meet in that time frame is a very short period of time. For the general election, they have a little bit more time to be able to certify that, but they typically have it to us by roughly the end of November, beginning of December. I can look up the exact deadline, but it is not November 30th.
The key point, I think, is that the elections, the clerk is going to be busy this next month.
Right.
Yes.
Right,
You think?
right. Commissioner O'Donnell?
I don't want to get distracted from the primary question that we're addressing, but maybe this is a good time to explain to the commission what does happen if the mayor should be recalled and the election is certified. What actions happen? Does this commission have to take an action? Or
My memory, sorry, I want to take a quick look at the charter. There's probably some statutes that rely on it. I know I had a discussion with Ms. Riggs several weeks ago. My
Yeah.
memory is that when it gets certified to us, he is recalled.
Yes, the recall, we discussed that the recall procedures are different than regular general election procedures. So for general election procedures, I will have to bring those, results
Right.
to you, and you will have to certify them at one of your commission meetings. That's why we have a lot longer time frame. But because the procedures itself specify that there is a specific deadline for the recall, and there is nothing in our code or charter that specifically override that deadline or have it specifically stated in there. It just says it will follow the state of Oregon, procedures. It's not specified in there what we do. So we would just follow the procedures that it's put forth by the state, and they have specific deadlines in there. Because of that, it does not say that we have to bring that back to you for a certification. And Bill and I couldn't find anything in the code or the charter that said for a recall election the results have to be certified by you. So once they provide that to us, that exact day, I provide you all with a notice and also the
mayor.
chief petitioner and the elected official.
And then at the next meeting, we can, to the extent the certification is that the recall was successful, the next meeting, we can talk about the filling the vacancy, which I assume would be the next question.
The charter specify that?
Oh,
The
we-
charter act absolutely specifies it.
Yeah.
I think our understanding of that is better.
Okay.
Okay, shall we return to
Okay.
the original question, which is,
So my question of bringing that up is, do we take action right now, or do we wait until the first meeting in December so that we know the outcome? I guess I would be interested in knowing, do any of these actions cost the city money? I mean, we can send the investigative report to the Board of Ethics and ask them to look into it.
Yeah, I can't imagine a situation where taking the action itself would cost the city any money. So it's just a matter of essentially sending to DOJ and OGEC, we've conducted an investigation, here's our findings, we're providing to you to do whatever you believe is appropriate.
that was the original direction on the very night when we did this in an open meeting. And I'll leave it to the pleasure of my fellow
Are you asking
commissioners.
us to reaffirm that, or you said we already did it?
No, if I understand Mr. Conkle, in the absence of direction by three or more commissioners, that we will not pursue that action. So we need to tell you to do that if we desire it.
Then make a motion.
And I move that we submit that finalized report for consideration and possible action to both the DOJ and the Ethics Board, whatever name it may be.
The OGEC,
Oregon Government Ethics Commission.
Oregon Government
Ethics Commission.
Okay, that's the motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Riggs?
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
and Commission President Rachel Lyle Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. So
She
with
needs the
that,
mic back.
Oh, sorry.
we pulled item 8B from the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda minus 8B?
So moved.
Second. The minutes were excellent, if I may say so.
Okay, Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
and Commission President Rachel Lyle Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, so we're going to take up item 8B to talk about House Bill 4006 and delegating authority to the Community Development Department to,
Can I explain why I asked for this to be pulled before
Sure.
Mr. Array goes? So, reading this several times, I had a concern because some of this relies on our friends at Clackamas County. And I have been a little bit critical of their involvement with us regarding anything related to housing. In my opinion, they've been talking to staff, but it's been absent on our docket. And it's something that I'm very concerned about, and I have concerns about kind of what process they're using, what they're going through. So when I saw this, it was like, okay, getting into the home rule issue, okay, here we have another state thing coming down saying, even if it's a good thing, saying we have to do this, we're gonna take responsibility for it, and we're going to involve our friends at Clackamas County to help us do it. So circling back to my friends at Clackamas County, we're not in the loop, at least as commissioners with regard to policy, dealing with housing, and this all ties in there together. So that is why I wanted a further explanation of us taking responsibility for something.
Sorry.
That's okay. And how we are interacting or not interacting with our friends at Clackamas County. And I say that, friends of Clackamas County, not with any sarcasm, I sincerely mean that they are our friends. But I'd like to know what's going on with regard to housing. I'd like to know what's going on with regard to this Metro money that they've already given out. I know we don't have any projects in the pipeline, but I asked repeatedly to the commissioners, please involve us, please involve us, please involve us. So that's my big story. Sorry.
Good questions. So this agenda item, the state legislature passed House Bill 4006, which included several provisions for jurisdictions that had a high number of people who are severely rent burdened, which means that they spend more than half their income on rent or mortgage, same thing. And the threshold is 25%. Once you have more than 25%, you have to do a series of things. And this year is the first year that we've gone over that threshold since it's been adopted, where 25.5% of our population spends more than half their income on rent. And so one of the things that we have to do is to hold a public meeting where we talk about the causes and the consequences of being rent burden, the barriers to reducing it, and some potential solutions as well. In the legislature's language, they identify entities that we need to reach out to try and coordinate with for this meeting. And it does include, for example, the Clackamas County Housing Authority, and I've reached out to them as well as others which we're required to as well, including Northwest Housing Alternatives, to help participate in this event. So if approved by the commission, we anticipate having an event on November 3rd. I have been speaking with the Clackamas
On
County.
November 3rd?
December 3rd.
Okay, I was gonna say, I think that day is coming.
That's not right, yeah. We're hoping for Thursday, December 3rd, to have a meeting. I have had a few conversations with the director of the Clackamas County Housing Authority, and she is pleased to help participate. And even some of our asks were to have them recruit some of the people who are in some housing authority properties. There too, people can be rent burdened and spending more of their income on housing, even though it's a reduced rate. And so they have been receptive to that. I did have a chance to talk to the county a little bit about the Metro money in response to the concerns that the commission has identified. There is a plan on their website for generally how they're going to distribute the money. And I've had a couple of preliminary conversations with them, and I have nothing more on that than that. So since we are establishing a relationship and working together on this, we'll certainly be working with the county to learn more about how we can be involved. We've certainly communicated to multiple staff at the county that we would like to be involved. So, working on it.
Any other questions for Ms. Turi? No. All right, since we pulled it, I think we need a motion. Is there a motion regarding delegating authority to staff to implement House Bill 4006?
Move to approve.
Second it, Frank.
Nope.
Oh, no.
All right, I'll second it for purposes of discussion.
All right, no further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
and Commission President Rachel Held Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
What was that?
I don't know.
That was home rule under attack again.
I know, I said it. I said it was home rule under attack again.
That was a begrudging aye.
I heard that. Well, I think Ms.
Noted-
Turley has
noted
heard
for
our
the record.
concerns, and
Yeah.
I think I need to double down on my efforts to talk to my friends at Clackamas County.
All right, so we're going to move on the agenda to try to get moving. Communications, City Manager?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
So for commissioners, I want to start off and just say congratulations to Commissioner McGriff and Commissioner O'Donnell on your re-election for Commissioner
Yeah.
O'Donnell and election for you.
Are we certified?
Recertified for you, a term. But you both did a great job of running campaigns that, stayed above board through some challenging political times and some darts thrown at you, and which is hard to do.
He's small and agile, so he dodged them.
But I just wanted to publicly say congratulations, and I'm really happy that you're both going to be here. I think we have a really well-rounded commission. We don't always agree. We all come with different perspectives, and we have a lot of good discussion, as we've proven tonight in our regular meeting and in our work session. And it is possible for us to get along and work together and work for the city. And I 100% believe that we're all doing this and volunteering because we have an interest in our community, and we want to see it prosper and be a good city for our residents and our businesses. And so just wanted to say congratulations.
Thank you. We're extra mile people.
Extra mile people.
Yes.
Any other communications from the commission?
I have one unless Commissioner Smith does.
No.
I just wanted to say thank you to all of you, and I'm grateful to be joining you as an elected person. This was not something that I relished, but I did jump in with both feet, and I had lots of advice from all of you. I want to thank the community, And just for the record, I want to say hi, Bob O'Donnell, and I want to say hi to Mrs. Conkle, because I said I was going to do it.
Yeah, we'll say
And
that.
John Lewis's mother, I guess, too, was watching.
That's important, yeah.
So make sure we get that. But I did want to bring something to our attention, and I know that this is something we may or may not want to talk about, but I think it's really critical that if we do have comments and we're speaking as a citizen, that we not do it from the dais, that we step down and take our seat there if we're not speaking about commission business. I think it's unfortunately inappropriate that we do it, that this has happened from here. And I wish that I had taken steps at a previous meeting to object to it. I did not feel comfortable with our city attorney being subjected to the questioning that he was subjected to. I think that was inappropriate. It was more like, I kind of felt like I was in court. And I'm sorry that you got put in that position, and, you know, you could have easily refused, but I understand why you responded. But I just want to make sure that we don't do, that doesn't happen. I don't think any of us have done it, but I have received some feedback from the community that happened. So I just wanted to make that, I wanted to make that statement and basically say that I didn't think that was appropriate. And, you know, if I have something I want to say that's not related to commission business and I want to address the commission, I'm certainly going to ask permission to step down and step to here as a citizen comment, because I don't think that this is not the appropriate place to be doing that. But
I think there's general agreement.
I agree.
Yes,
Okay.
we're all in agreement.
So,
on
and then
that, yes.
my committees have been meeting. I'm hoping to report back to you in the next month about the diversity, inclusion, and equity work that I'm doing with the League of Oregon Cities. It's like, boy, they find your name somewhere and then they just make you do stuff as a volunteer. And also I'm working on the same project with the Willamette Falls Heritage Area land. I never get the name right. Landings in Coalition. So sorry, Siobhan, if I messed that up. But anyway, they're also doing a DEI plan as well. And I'm hoping to scarf off any information and pass that on to Mr. Foyles. And I know he's working on it because he's talked to me, he's called me. So thank you.
All right, so just for the record, as soon as I adjourn this meeting, we are moving to executive session immediately following this regular meeting pursuant to ORS 192.6602E to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions.
We have a 5-minute break. And by the way, just as a postscript, thank you, staff, for always answering questions and being available. And even when you're not available, you're still really polite about it and call you back.
All right, and with that, we're adjourned.